invest in ourselves. We all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here at Black Star Network. Each and every week, we're bringing you content that really resonates with our lives. And today, we're going to be talking about the Great Resignation. I know some of you have already figured out your exit strategy, and you are ready to leave your place of employment. Today, we're going to be talking and dialoguing about what does that mean to our families? What does it mean to our culture and communities? And just how well are you doing managing your work-life situations? We're going to be joined today by Corey Briscoe of ABCD and Company Business Coach, Pastor JT, our resident theologian and spiritual coach, Stacey Owens, our education and balanced living coach, Dr. Tierney, our extraordinary level up coach. And then we're having a special guest, Rhonda Dallas, our wellness coach. Let me tell you, in your life, you need a plethora of people who can speak to you about the situations and circumstances that are governing your lives. How do you make the decisions that are of value and importance to all the people that you personally have to deal with on an ongoing basis? Welcome in, everyone. Hey, y'all.
Hey, Dr. Jacquie.
Let me tell you, it is so exciting to see each of you, and you bring to the table today a wealth of experience that literally is going to allow our audience to figure out their own access points and their pathways to the struggle that some may be having of how do they decide to stay or to go. Now, most of our audience knows that all of you are business owners. You run your own companies. You are in that group that said, I either don't want to work for other people, or I'm not going back to work for other people, or you had a special call in your lives. So I'm going to start with Corey Briscoe, because Corey falls into that category of entrepreneur. Corey, can you tell us a little bit about your decision not to work for other people?
Yeah, well, that's I'm trying to think where to start, Dr. Jacquie. It's funny because my joke is, before the Great Resignation was popular, me and a couple other people started that trend, right, and decided that entrepreneurship was the path. And I think a part of it, even now, is what you're seeing is there is a reinvention that's happening. Many people are leaving their traditional places of employment, and they're trying something different. They're going into temporary work. They're going into the gig economy, as we call it, or part-time, and they're trying to actually look at areas of passion and see, as people shuffle through life and the pandemic has changed the way we live, people are trying to see what is it that makes them passionate. They're trying to see what is it that makes them happy at the end of the day. And I think we're seeing it. When I look at my own, journey to this, it was a decision that, culture is so important. And when I look at the culture that I was in, it just wasn't conducive to where I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be in a position where I felt like I could empower others. And I wanted to set a culture of business where you could be happy at work, you can enjoy the place of work. You aren't dying to get off at 5 o'clock at 4:57. And I think that's what's happening in the nation right now. People are saying, I could be happier doing something else. And the time right now is to jump ship if you can, because the way the economy is positioned, everyone's working remote. And so people are looking this as an ample opportunity to, again, reinvent themselves. And then employers are reshuffling talent, whether it's losing talent or trying to attract new talent due to the new demands. It really positions itself in the country for this opportunity of now.
This opportunity of now. Clearly, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has been reporting that 25% more people, as Corey stated, are jumping ship and finding pathways. Prior to the pandemic, more people are making that decision to leave their jobs. Now, there are a couple of categories that people, can fall in. And one of them that I find most interesting, Corey would probably fall in the do-it-yourselfer category. But then there are also the traditionalists, those individuals who are career, and it comes first. But then you have individuals who are are idealists who want to work part-time or just take a gig or two when they feel like it. And then there are others who have stepped out of life because, they have caregiver responsibilities. And then, my favorite group is the relaxers. It's like career no longer comes first anymore. Stacey, when you think about yourself and why you do what you do at Zecca and you run your own business, why was it important for you, not to fall into that traditional teacher administrator category where you came from?
Now, this is interesting because I tell people I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start my own business. I was a great teacher. I taught for several years. I was a national board certified teacher, and I could teach kids with my eyes closed, and I did it well. But I had another thing going on in my life with my personal son, and he wasn't getting the needs that he needed from that traditional school setting. And so I was sort of thrust into this because God gave me the vision to create the thing that he didn't have, and it wasn't in the area, and other students were suffering from some of those same disconnects. And so he gave me the vision to create a place that would fit that need. So I sort of, I fought it for a long time. And then one day it was like nothing, whatever you don't do what God tell you to do, everything won't go like it should need to go, because he's going to get you to that purpose eventually. So I was thrust into the whole concept of opening the schools, but it's better to be obedient than it is to sacrifice. So it turned out well. But so I think whenever you have to make that decision of why you want to go into being your own boss, I think you just need to, reevaluate your life and see if you're ready for it, if you're emotionally balanced for it, because it's not necessarily easier. People think, oh, I'm tired of going to work. I want to go open my own business because you think it's going to give you some release. I found that I work more now working this capacity than I did when I was working as a teacher. So just make sure you are mentally and physically ready for it.
Mental and physical readiness is a very big component of who we are and how we govern our lives. And oftentimes we make decisions not based on emotion, but literally how are we being treated as employees and what does that look like in our everyday life? Pastor JT, in the work that you do in guiding other people, what are some of the reasons that you are full-time pastor versus bivocational? Because I know there are many who try to juggle that responsibility of working a career job versus seeing the pastoral life as their career work.
Well, Dr. Jacquie, I must tell you, I think I'm maybe quadruple vocational. From the serving as lead pastor of the Word Church, there has been so many doors that have opened that has caused me to now serve in those capacities. So I worked in corporate America all my life up until becoming full-time at the Word Church. And then we created our nonprofit, The Fulfillment Project, which I serve as executive director. And so in that role of executive director, especially during the time of our heightened seasons, so we have services that we provide year out. But when we get into our heightened seasons, we have a big back to school outreach event. We have a Thanksgiving event, we have a Christmas event, and then we have an event that's kind of around the Easter season. So those times are our larger attracted events. And in the middle, I'm out connecting, making partnerships, fundraising, being the face of the organization, and then connecting those dots. But then from those levels of service, I've moved. I've written 7 books, so I, generate some income from there. I am a public speaker, generate income from there, and public speaking from outside of the church. Do a lot of work with colleges and universities and speaking in a lot of different business functions. I just got off of a coaching call with one of my mentees prior to jumping online with my amazing Balanced Life family. I am a certified personal trainer. I am writing a book on how to transition from more eating of meat to a plant-based life. I have my own cologne line. So, Dr. Jacquie, thing is the easy thing. I get that from the Bible, where it said that a man that don't work shouldn't eat. And during quarantine, finances shifted significantly as people now looked at living more than giving. And there was a certain lifestyle that I had provided for my family. And so I saw an opportunity for me to utilize the tools that God has given me that, you know, my mom and my daddy paid for my college degree for. And I just applied that to the relationships that I had already formulated through the Word Church and the Fulfillment Project, and just leveraged those, and now have created kind of an ecosystem where it's Jamel Johnson Enterprises. So JT Johnson Enterprises, a whole LLC out there with all 9 of my businesses. So, yeah.
Look, you bring up a very important point, because with each exit strategy, you have to have a plan. And I like the idea that you're sharing with our audience some of the things that you're doing since you left corporate America. Now, I know that people will say, I'm going to jump ship and then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do later. People, that is not a plan. Let me just say that it will cause additional stress on your family when they're uncertain where their security and their meals are coming from. It will cause anxiety in you as an individual when you say you want to leave and you believe you have transferable skill sets into another industry, but you really haven't taken the time to figure out how you guide and navigate that resume into different areas. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk to Dr. Tierney and Rhonda Dallas. I want you to get to know Rhonda Dallas, because as each of us are thinking about how we're moving and what it is that we're doing, there are often times that there's some things about us that cause us to leave a job. But remember, you take you with you. So even in the midst of this great resignation and you think you want to leave, if you've not taken care of getting yourself together, you bring all that bad behavior and attitude with you into that new space. When we're back after the break.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And we are talking about this great resignation and what it means to figure out how to have balance if you so choose to leave the career or the job that you're in and decide to either do something on your own, go into partnership with other people, even if you consider just taking some time to deal with your family. Now, let me just say that a part of this great resignation also means having a plan and a strategy for being able to move you forward, because first and foremost, balanced living begins with you. I want to ask Dr. Tierney this question because oftentimes we will leave a job, as statistics have shown us, because the work environment is not conducive to how we want to live. And it looks a little like this. Your boss won't let you have time off to take care of your loved ones. Your employer doesn't see the value in you taking every other Friday off for your mental well-being. And oftentimes things creep up in our own lives where we have to be able to have a stop out. Dr. Tierney, welcome. So when you think about what it looks like and what it means and how it is that we're going to be engaging going forward, what are some of the things that people need to do to figure themselves out first before they jump ship?
Excellent question. So to answer that, I'll tell you a little bit about how I stepped into entrepreneurship. I like to say that I was the reluctant entrepreneur. I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I thought the W-2 was the safe thing. I knew I would know what I was making each week and I could plan and, and that was just not something that I wanted to do. But God had a different plan for me. And if you've heard me, in any of my speaking engagements, you've probably heard me tell how I lost my job in 2016, literally 1 month after getting married. And I lost my good job. But it was in that process of losing my job that I began to rediscover me and didn't even know until I lost my job that I had lost myself. And in that process, one of the first things that I did was actually get a life coach. And as I was working with my life coach, that's when I began to see all of the things that were on the inside of me, my tenacity, my discipline, but also I got a chance to see how I was had gotten my who in front of my do in front of my who. If I couldn't do this thing, then who am I? And I lost a sense of just who I was, because if I wasn't, I was in higher education. I'm still in education. I do consulting in education, but I had worked at the Department of Education and had this huge network. And, so if I wasn't the education extraordinaire, then who was Dr. Tierney? And it was in that place, that scary place, that I realized, like, wait, I've lost sight of me. If I can't do this thing, then I shouldn't not know who I am, and so it started with me just working on me, who I was, whose I was. And so that's the first thing that I always tell people. It's not so much about doing this thing or starting this business or, leaving where you are to do something different. It's about getting in touch with you, because let me tell you, having your own business and Stacy tapped on it, Corey tapped on it, Pastor JT tapped on it, that when you are out here and you're the CEO, sugar, all sides of you are going to come out, all of the attitudes, all of the behaviors, all of the thoughts, everything. It is going to pull on you in a way that you are not expecting. I work harder now than I ever did when I worked for the man. I'm just telling you, straight. So starting first with identifying who you are. What are those things that are on the inside of you? Not just your passions, but those things that could possibly become roadblocks, in your way, getting in touch with that. And then from that place, deciding from who you are, what it is that you'll like to do. That's kind of the 1-2 that I always kind of got my clients on when we're talking about starting a new career, great resignation, or whatever it is that they want to do in their life.
Absolutely. Knowing who you are is a very important part of the foundation that you build. I'd like for you all to welcome in Rhonda Dallas. Hey, Rhonda.
Hi.
Hey, this is the first time our audience is having an opportunity to see you and to get to know you. Tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Okay, so name is Rhonda Dallas, originally from Chicago, Illinois. I live here in Houston, Texas. I am a healthcare administrator. I have a degree in science. I'm a certified health and wellness life coach and a certified nutritional counselor. And I have my own Black-owned vitamin line for women, men, and children. I'm married. I have children. They're all gone and grown. And just enjoying what a balanced life feels like.
Enjoying what a balanced life feels like. And I think it's important to this conversation we're having now related to the Great Resignation. Now, you have worked for yourself and you have worked for other people. And I've often heard you talk about how toxic relationships on the job can cause people to want to leave because oftentimes individuals don't feel valued. Can you talk a little bit about how not feeling valued plays a part in people wanting to leave a job, even though they may need the money? Sometimes your self-worth and who you are is tied into that space where you find your employment, but there's no joy there anymore.
Yeah, I'm glad. That's a very, very great question, Dr. Jacquie, especially when it pertains to our health and wellness. I always tell people that now call on me to do healthcare consulting, that it is free. It is free to check on somebody, to check to see how your staff is doing, to check on others across the globe, because we have such vast technology now. It's taking out the time, it's being intentional to check on others to see how their health and wellness is, especially during a pandemic. I often tell people right now that we are still in a pandemic. It's not talked about as much, but people still need for us to reach out to them and see how they're doing mentally and physically. So for me, it's just putting self to the side and reaching out and checking on others.
Reaching out and checking on others. Both of you have given us some examples of why it's important as you think about a Great Resignation. You know, literally, I have to say this, before you leave your job, take some time to really assess what is happening in your workplace, what is happening with you, and how are you managing the stressors that are around you. I want to ask Corey Briscoe a couple of questions as it relates to this, because as an employer, Corey, you've got a team of people who are working with you in ABCD and company. And as Rhonda stated, being able to check on each other is important. Now, Corey, when you think about this relationship of employer, employee, and managing partners, what value is there in this relationship building on the job? Because we literally spend more time with our employer than we do with our family.
You know, this is a fantastic conversation, and one that I think more organizations need to have more of this conversation. I coach a bunch of organizations, and unfortunately, when you talk about the kind of the family aspect of business, because there is successful organizations, there is a family aspect. There's a relational aspect. It's what makes the organizations grow. It's what makes them function. It's what makes the relationships and the day itself seem like it's a place you want to enjoy. And unfortunately, the reality is when you use the connotation of family, depending on the background of a person, family has a very interesting meaning. Some people, family is great things. Some people, family, it's terror. But it's up to the organization to define the family, define the guiding principles, and those things which help guide the organization to accept a new definition and adopt the new definition. You know, as a managing partner and owner, it is so difficult sometimes balancing what I like to say, the business of the firm and the health and the love, right, that I as an individual have. But I've learned in the course of 8 years in business that it is necessary to merge the two. The health of the business depends on the health and the wellness of the employees. The health of the business depends on the relationship that the employer sees itself having with the business. And so for me, when I look at the firm and I look at the value in having relationships, I just left right before this call. We were celebrating an employee's birthday, right? And then you learn about, the person not being celebrated in general and finding a place of comfort and home. I keep telling people every day, the more you invest in your employees, the more that you invest in the culture, the systems, the processes to help them show up the best, you don't really have to ask them to show up. They do it voluntarily. They show up and they allow the business to thrive. They allow the organization to thrive. And so for me, I think it's a conversation about first leadership setting the stage, setting the framework so people can then adopt and buy into it, right? Because we know that while culture may be set from a vision standpoint, it is an everyone thing that requires everyone's buy-in.
Absolutely. Buy-in is key to what we do. And, you know, entrepreneurship, whether you're starting your own business when you step out, whether you're taking the opportunity to say, you know, this employee-employer relationship is not really working out, you know, quite the way I anticipated it to be. You know, statistics are showing that 2.8 million more people between 2020 and 2021 applied for applications of startup than they did in 2019. And that says something, that our workforce is leaving these environments where there is a rigidity and a lack of flexibility. When we come back after the break, we want to talk about that for a moment, because each of you in this moment are deciding whether or not you want to leave early. If your company decides that they're going to offer, you know, early retirement for some of you because you have issues at home that you need to take care of. You know, many of us in this particular platform have been in that space where we've been caregivers for other people, whether it was a sibling, a cousin, a mother, a father, or a grandparent. And that caregiver category is very important as it relates to the Great Resignation when we're back after the break.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
These are the only bins that will accommodate larger overboard.
They put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, you poop 10.
Oh my God.
So what?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And this conversation today about the Great Resignation has a significant impact on our community and our culture. As we think about how we're navigating the nuances of having to go to work, one of the things that causes people to decide to leave is that there's a lack of flexibility in the workplace. I have to tell you, I worked in corporate America, and the things that I enjoyed most was a 4-day work week. It allowed me to handle the business of my home, to manage those things that were important, to go to doctor's appointments, to just go to brunch and see my friends. And we get to that space where we have to say we need a break. But oftentimes that corporate machine has a wheel and a productivity schedule that has to keep going and going and going. And then we become like hamsters in a wheel where there's no exit strategy for us. Stacey, I'd like to ask you about the environment where you work, because you do something with your staff where you give them this health and wellness time and opportunity for a break, but also you work with parents where you see that many of your parents are taking time out to care for their loved ones. Give us a little bit of an example about how this is relatable to this great resignation and people taking time for caregiving.
Yeah, I think in my environment it's interesting because our students only attend school 4 days a week. So our teachers, they have one day on Monday that we designate to professional development. And I try to make those Mondays light for them because I recognize that balance is key. You know, since the pandemic and us re-entering the world, all these responsibilities came back into play, and it just caused everybody to just be imbalanced and go into just, it just kicked up some of the stressors that your workplace have to deal with. And I have teachers who are caregivers. They were put in a position where they had to take care of their parents, or they needed to take care of their child at home, and the daycare centers were no longer having any vacancies. And so now what do you do when you have a toddler at home and the daycare centers are full because they had to cut the staff and you have to go in and teach somewhere? Oh, that made it challenging. And so for us, I had to really go back into a place where we were trying to make sure that the teacher understood it had to be a balance between the professional life and the home life. As the boss, I created an environment where I wanted to be understanding of life, because life happens. So I had teachers who, if the child wasn't sick and your babysitter called out, I was like, bring them to work, bring them on to work. And the administrative team, like the nurse and myself, we would just be on babysitting duty to help out this employee so that they would not have to take a day off or use any of their personal leave time to deal with the crisis that was created outside of their control, right? So you just have to create situations where we can make sure that as the employee, though, I understand that if I can do that as an employer, what are you going to give back to that as an employee? We can't get imbalanced. We can't have that expectation that I only can let my life happen, but not take in regards of how that may affect the employer, right? So I always tell my staff, I can work within this situation as long as we keep a balance between the two, because workplace crisis such as family crisis, stress and depression, those are the top 3 things that can kill an environment for an employer. And it's easier as an employee for me to deal with the job than it is for me to deal with my home. So if my home life is imbalanced, if my money's funny and I'm dealing with things at home, I can't just go and divorce or drop my kids or do whatever, but I can come to work and the easiest or simplest thing can trigger me because of my imbalance at home. So I've learned to, and I won't even acknowledge that I'm triggered because of something going on at home. I'll just look outward and say it's this that's happening at work, and then the next thing you know, they're coming in saying I have to quit my job. So I like to say, let's look at this. Let's back up. Let's talk. Let's see what we can do as an employer to help you become more balanced, but take responsibility for both environments. That's sort of the approach that we use.
You know, when people talk about traditionalists, individuals whose career always come first, it does seem as if it's difficult to make those decisions and set the priorities that are necessary to be able to say, you know, I'm going to give my employer or my employee a break. And that relationship is filled with tension at times simply because most employers are not the owners of their company. They have guidelines to follow because they work for big corporations. And Dr. Tierney, you've been in that space before. How do you help these large corporations figure out how to create space and time for their employers? The employer and the employee don't have a relationship per se, in the sense of being able to say, you know, let's change some rules and regulations. You know, is our bottom line more important than the health and wellness and the well-being of our people?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is where kind of the consulting and the coaching part of my business is collide, because coming in and working with companies, I help the companies to see the individual. A lot of times big companies are just looking at the bottom line. We have to produce this much, we have to meet these particular goals and, this, that, and the other. And so they create these hierarchies, they create these job descriptions, and okay, we just need a body to fill it so that we can hit this bottom line. And if we're not hitting the bottom line, then why was this off or why was that off? Almost treating their employees like robots. And so what I do is I help the companies to see the individual, help them to think about, when we're talking about our bottom lines, we can't talk about them in these arbitrary ways as if we have robots that are just pushing buttons. We have humans that are, parents, they are daughters and fathers and siblings and sons. And, they have all of these other things that they're coming to work with, and so, Corey said it. When you make your people feel valued, you don't even almost have to worry about whether or not the employee is going to, do what it is that you ultimately want them to do. If you are putting the value in them, if you're taking that moment to say, hey, how are you today? And so sometimes we make it this big thing, and it's often not. It's something just as simple as saying, hey, how are you doing today? Letting that employee know that you see them, that you hear them, that you value them. That goes a long, long way. And just that good, that good, like, I know that my employer cares about me, and I'm just not some cog in a wheel that is made to produce this thing, and so oftentimes it just comes back to something just that simple. Sometimes it does require some restructuring. Sometimes it is, some additional facilities for, for mothers that need to be, incorporated. Sometimes it is just some workshops or different resources for the employees. But often it just comes down to, hey, when was the last time that you went to Bob that's on the third floor in the second cubicle to say, hey, how are you? And you're doing a great job.
Absolutely.
So just really checking in those little ways can have a big impact for the company bottom line overall.
It is the little things that make a great impact. Pastor JT, in your role, and I know I keep saying in your role as pastor, leader, spiritual advisor, but most of the people in our sector of what we do and who we are as a people of culture, our communities are based on faith, and we try to make decisions by faith. How can you guide people to make sound, smart decisions if they're using the Bible, if they're using another faith-based resource, if their go-to is prayer or to talk to Big Mama, whatever it is? How do we allow people to discover how to center themselves and find a space in a way to say, you know what, folks, I've decided I'm not going back, or I'm going to give this job another year, because those are really tough decisions. And talking to family members about getting involved in the Great Resignation or staying in a place where you're not happy weighs heavily on the home.
You're right, Dr. Jacquie. And I think we have to give them space to be. We have to give them space to make that decision because we're dealing with a totally different workforce. When we originally talked about this topic, I am a researcher, and in being a pastor, one of the things that I found out is that typically in the church of old, it was more so, top down in a sense. The pastor is the one that has all the say, makes all the decisions, and then you all just follow suit. Well, I'm a little bit different, man. I send out surveys, I'm asking for people's ideas. I'm doing a series now at the movies, and I'm asking people to chime in and let me know what movies they watch so I can, watch their movie and preach it and see what God is saying in the movie. So I try to incorporate and engage other people's thoughts. And this is kind of different because I understand that I'm preaching to a different generation, and it's a different generation that's going to work right now. And as we're talking about this resignation swing, the Harvard Business Journal said that the group that's driving it is between the age of 30 and 45. Now, I'm 42 and I'm a millennial. So really, Our issue is the millennial generation and back. So this is that generation that does not have the attention span of generations of old. So now when I look at this job every day, if it's not serving me, I am going to serve them my resignation letter. And so now we have to give them space, understand their language. And so I think the thing is that if we are trying to live, quote unquote, now if we look at the theologian that you have given me, the title of being, if we're trying to live in a New Testament world, we can't hold them to the rigid laws of the Old Testament, because what happened from the Old Testament to the New Testament is grace. And so we have to learn to extend them grace, learn their language, offer them an opportunity to have a space where we appreciate what they say, incorporate some of the things that they do. And then if we identify that they have come to a fork in the road, we help them as their family identify what direction to take and not be critical, but allow them to make the decision on their own. Because at the end of the day, just like the show that came out when I grew up, it's a different world.
It definitely is a different world. When we come back after the break, I'm going to tell you guys, it's the hashtag for me that says it's the autonomy for me. I have to be honest. I have worked in corporate America. I've worked in higher ed. I enjoy being an entrepreneur. I've had that as a part of my life for at least the last 30 to 35 years. And so with that, comes the understanding and direction and guidance of being able to really govern yourself accordingly. Let me just say, and don't at me, don't hashtag me, don't text me, don't call me. I'm going to just say it plain like it is. So many people do not have the discipline to be on their own, trying to run their own business. So however it looks for you, when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about why discipline matters if you decide to step into this great resignation when we're back after the break.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. I said it. Don't hashtag me, don't at me, don't text me, don't call me, don't do any of it, because most of us know people who have tried to run their own business, who have tried to say, oh, I'm going to work from home. We don't have the discipline to work from home, at least not all of us. I want to bring everybody back in for this conversation because let's have a little fun, guys. When you think about when you first decided that you were either going to step out on your own or you were going to work from home, or this pandemic forced you to work from home, tell us about one or two things that you realized about yourself where you actually may not be cut out for working at home. Hey, y'all. Because we all had those moments. If we're honest with our audience, we all had those moments where it was like, oh, I think I'll write this document or do a grant report. And then you started binge watching a show or started working on your grocery list. So let's talk about how undisciplined were we when we really started this movement of let's do it from home. Corey Briscoe.
I am so glad you asked this question. All I can say is I am in my office for a reason. The best investment I ever made as an entrepreneur was to get a physical office. And I'm not saying that is right for everyone, but it was right for me. And I come into my office every day. And yes, I'm a managing partner. I'm the owner. I'm the founder. I need to be around structured environments. I need it because when you work crazy hours, when you are disciplined, you also need the ability to disconnect. I need to leave work at work and be at home and be at home. And sometimes when you merge the lines of that, it becomes difficult. Some people are fantastic at it. Some people just aren't. And I learned that about myself, that whereas my wife, who can do a hybrid, that's not me. I need to be at my desk. I need to be around my team. I need to be collaborating with them in person. And it allows me to show up the best way I know how. And I think that's so important. And lastly, Dr. Jacquie didn't ask me to speak to this, but you can @ me and tag me CCB Global, because a lot of people are not disciplined and should not be entrepreneurs. Point blank, period. I'm going to say it. I am unapologetic about it. At first, I didn't know if I had the discipline to be an entrepreneur. It is a thing that you have to know about yourself. You have to know about your structure. Some people need someone to check in with them. Some people need someone to manage them. And that's just honesty. So let's tag me. I'm ready.
Rhonda Dallas, what say you about this, discipline or undisciplined?
I would say discipline, but I'm gonna piggyback off of Corey. I have to be in a structured environment, because one of the things that you must understand about yourself is, are you an A or B type personality? And so I am a strong A, where I have to have structure, I have to have everything in place, and I have to feel like it's an office environment. Because when I come back to my home office, I wanted to feel like a home office, a little more relaxed. And so I like Corey said, I don't want to muddy the water with the two, but I know for me, doing this, not as long as some people have, I require that work office setting in order to continue my discipline.
Now that is smart, sound decision making. I hope y'all are listening. She needed a work office, because some people need that. It's okay to bring your traditional ways into your laxed ways. There has to be a blending and a marrying of the two. Pastor JT.
Well, and I don't want to sound like, the shining star or whatever, but
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, either way, because, and I think because what I do calls for so much, and it takes me in so many different directions. And I think one of the things for me, if I can say I was undisciplined in saying no. I'm still undisciplined in saying that. Over the last 3 days, I've probably had about 12, 13 different events that I had to go speak at or attend. And my wife just asked me, hey, are you running for office again? Tell me what's going on. I'm confused why you're moving around so much. But it's always, hey, Pastor Jay, can you be here? Can you speak here? We need you to do this. And so I think I kind of got in that groove during quarantine, because I was going from Zoom to Zoom to Zoom. And so I made so many different commitments when we were online, because it was easier for me to end and begin. But now I'm turning the keys and I'm driving from here to there. So I think that's for me, one of the things that I'm not disciplined in as much as I should be. I should be telling people, I should be like Corey. I should want all the smoke and tell people, no, I ain't coming.
I love it. I love it. Stacey Owens.
Listen to the little shining star. You are already the shining star.
Right.
For me, I'm pretty disciplined, but I do have a touch of ADHD. So for me, when schools closed down, it was easier for me to still come into the school and do my work, mainly because when I'm home in my home office, it's harder for me to set those boundaries for my family. My kids are grown and gone as well, but if my mother or anybody in the family call me and find out that I'm at home, then in their mind, even though I'm sitting in my home office, they think that I can just stop and turn to their needs. So they have learned that if I'm at school in my office, then they're like, okay, she's at work. She's not gonna budge until she finished doing whatever. So for me, the discipline, it helps me more to come into the office and have that structure and have that mindset of knowing that this is the task I need to stay focused on. Because at home, I'm not a binge watcher for TV, but I will say, oh, squirrel, let me go find something to eat, or let me go wash the dish, or let me go do this, and I'll just be all over the place. But Corey, I'm gonna share those tags with you though, because everybody is not cut out to be an entrepreneur. So you really do have to think about not only discipline, but your emotions too. Are you emotionally balanced to be cut out to be somebody's boss? Because every emotion that you have in your being is going to be tested and tried once you step into that role of leadership. So I'll take some of those hits with you.
Dr. Tierney, everybody taking hits. Go for it.
I want all the smoke. Bring me all the smoke, because let's say this. When it comes to discipline, I had the fortunate ability to really hone in on my discipline and finish in my doctoral degree. When you are in that dissertating phase, your chair is not going to call you. They're not going to check up on you. They're not going to ask for your chapters. So my discipline had to really, I was already disciplined and I'm very type A, but it had to really go up a notch, during that season. So by the time I got into this phase in entrepreneurship, I was already there. I was already ready. But something, if we're talking about discipline, something that I tell my clients all the time, a lot of people that are just saying, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. That's just, you're just being lazy because you don't want to do what they're asking you to do. And you want to do what you want to do. There's a sense of laziness and a sense of rebellion, that's in there. Before I had my own business, I served this other company I was working for. I served a friend in his small business. I served. So if you don't want to serve where you at, then you don't want a business. That rebellious nature, that laziness, all of that will not bode well for you when you get your own business. Like I said, I work harder now than I ever did when I worked for someone else. Now it is rewarding, it is fulfilling, and it doesn't feel like work because I'm walking in my purpose. But there's more that goes into what I do now than what it did before. So if you don't like what I said, I really don't care, sugar, because I love you and I want you to hear the truth. So after you get through adding Corey and adding State, you can add me too, because at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you the truth that's really going to help you get to that next level, for real.
For real, she said. So as we get ready to wrap up this segment, I'd like for each of you to give one word that you believe people need to bring to their balanced living skill set if they're participating in this great resignation. Bring blank. Go. Corey Briscoe.
Bring accountability. Without accountability, I'm telling you, you have to know yourself. You have to have some checks and balances. Even the best of us bring accountability.
Stacy.
Bring honesty. Don't fool yourself.
Rhonda.
Bring your mind. Don't leave it at home with you, but be intentional. Bring your whole self to the table.
Pastor JT.
I'd say bring commitment. Because if you are going to step out, man, it's going to be some days that you're going to get hit with some stuff that's going to make you want to run back in the house. But if you are committed, I promise you, and you put in the work, you'll get the rewards. Dr.
T.
Bring self-awareness. Before you think about doing anything, you need to know exactly who you are and how you're going to show up.
When we come back after the break, we'll bring reflections from today's show.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, there's some tools that you need in your kit in order to be able to survive the Great Resignation. Now, whether this resignation comes because you've decided to do it on your own and you're doing it voluntarily, or you get that dreaded pink slip, let me just say my one word for you would be to bring your passion. Bring all of who you are to the table. Bring those things that bring you joy. Bring that which you've been sitting on and putting on the back burner. Allow yourself to really be able to see yourself as a thriver and a survivor. The Great Resignation is going to hit all of us in different ways. And so, as you think about it, come prepared, ready to do the work that is required of you, but also bring your A game. Come ready to deliver at every stage. I watch a lot of television, and what I've learned from most of these reality shows is that everyone always says when they get booted off, they didn't give me enough time to show them who I was. You get one shot, which is the first time they call your name. Thank you all for watching today, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie. Bye now.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.